for tuning in. My name is Melanie Naranjo. I head up the people team here at Ethena. I am so thrilled to be chatting with Dina Blumenfeld, head of HR at Wolfe Research, in our latest edition of How We Tackle People Stuff at Ethena. Dina, I want to say first and foremost, thank you so much for chatting with us. We're always super eager to highlight our incredible customers and learn from their experiences. And so I'd really just love to just kick it off by learning a little bit more about you. Also, heads up incoming, there will be a cat jumping across the table at some point. I saw the butt
I
wig.
saw a dog before too.
There, I do have a dog on my lap. It's just a zoo in here.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, thank you for having me. It's nice to be here. So as Melanie said, I'm Dina Blumenfeld. I head up HR at Wolfe Research. I've been doing HR for almost 20 years at this point, and have worked on Wall Street, for all that time. Started my career at bigger firms, bigger banks, and have been at Wolfe Research now, which is, considered a smaller firm, more boutique, for the past 3 years. It's an awesome organization, really blends, all the things that I love about being in finance, including the, pace, intensity, working with really smart people. But the culture here is really what makes it super special and very warm and community driven. And it's really a fantastic firm.
Oh, I love that transition. I'm such a big fan of trying out different industries, company sizes, because I think it gives you, as an HR professional, a more well-rounded, robust understanding of the different strategies and approaches that work. I'm curious to know, tell me a little bit more about Wolfe Research, and what was that transition like?
Yeah. So Wolfe is a sell-side equity research firm. And so what that means is we have a team of equity research analysts who are responsible for doing independent research on companies across many different sectors. So we have analysts in the healthcare sphere, we have analysts in the financial sphere, technology, consumer, etc. So what our job is, as sell-side equity research providers, is we provide, independent, high-quality research for investors, and we call the investors on the buy side, so hedge funds, asset managers, mutual funds, who are investing in the companies that we cover. So it's a practice that I, was familiar with, and part of my prior a prior point in my career working at a bigger bank, I worked closely with the research department there. So it's a similar function, if you will, but Wolfe's, doing it in a very, independent, smaller firm capacity, given, research is the driver of what we're doing. Whereas at a bank, research is, a component of the investment banking efforts and the trading efforts. And at Wolfe, it's the leader of what we do. And that it means to an end. So the transition, I would say, was welcomed in that, it's a similar sort of work product and standard, but in a, much more high quality and familial setting.
Fascinating. I'm curious to know, how did you all come to learn about Ethena, and what was the role that you were looking for Ethena to play in a company like Wolfe?
Yeah, so we have a team. So part of our effort is obviously selling the research product that we're developing. So we have a great sales organization, and we have sales people across not only the United States, but across the globe as well. And we have a fairly big team in our San Francisco office, who we need to make sure are, following the laws, and we're in touch with the regulatory practices in California for that team. And so when we learned about the California workplace violence prevention law that was coming into effect, I believe July of this past year of 2024, our current LMS provider did not have the training prepared, or at least, in our planning efforts, wasn't 100%, prepared to kick off the right training for us to make sure that we were in compliance with that law. So as a result, we found Ethena, who had a solution ready to go, and we were able to, work with you and, deliver that in the right time frame, and obviously in accordance with the law.
I do want to send out just a bunch of love to all the HR people who are managing teams in California. Let's be real, California has a bunch of laws and regulations to the employee's benefit. We're all for it. We're here for it. We support, but it can be quite complex to navigate and make sure you're on top of everything. And to your point, you had an LMS, you have an LMS, and it just didn't have the right infrastructure at the time to sort of keep up with the changing business needs and the legal needs. So really, really glad that you were able to find Ethena. I'm curious to know, what about Athena's training made you decide to move forward with Ethena specifically?
Yeah, I mean, I think we really appreciated the level of engagement with Ethena, first and foremost. Everyone that we've dealt with at Ethena has been extremely, warm and friendly and really easy to partner with, including yourself, Melanie. And I think we, did some testing of some of the training offered, and found it to be, training can be a very boring and dry concept. And I think Ethena does a nice job of making it, as pleasant and interactive and, including humor to really make sure that it's perceived as well as it can from the end user. So that's, I think, why we ultimately went with Ethena.
Love to hear it on all sides, and can say super relatable as a fellow HR person. I remember when Ethena first reached out to me to interview me, and I remember my first thought being, a compliance training company. That sounds so boring. True, it's true. I don't think any HR person gets out of bed in the morning because they're just hungering for compliance training. That's really their passion. But same as you, they sent me a sample training, and I was like, hot damn, this is pretty good stuff. It's pretty interesting. I didn't know I could ever say that about compliance training. So
Right.
yeah, really cool to hear that that was your experience as well. And I super hear you on the experience front, because I think too many HR vendors underestimate the value of a smooth experience, right? Feeling like there's somebody holding your hand through the process, feeling like the people you're partnering with are engaged and here to partner with you, from all the way from sales to implementation. So it's really wonderful to hear that you're having a good experience with our team. It truly makes such a difference. I'm
Yeah.
I'm curious to know, you in particular, you all went with SCORM. And for anybody who's maybe not familiar with that, I know sometimes companies will have, their own, as you have, right, their own LMS, and they'll think, well, in order to go with compliance training, that means I'd have to rip out my LMS or go with another vendor altogether. And really it doesn't, right? You can just use SCORM files, which is essentially pull another vendor's trainings into your existing LMS. Help me understand, what was that launch process like for you all, and how did you decide to use our SCORM files and integrate that with your existing LMS?
Yes, and thank you for asking that, Melanie, because that was, in fact, another reason why we ultimately chose Ethena as a provider, was because of that capability to use the SCORM files, with our existing LMS. And that really helped, I think, helped us make the decision, in addition to what I mentioned before with the engaging and more interactive content. The LMS SCORM capability was huge for us. So that was really appreciated. And I think the experience, with SCORM, it was actually credit to the Ethena IT team, who really helped us through that. There was a hiccup at one point where our LMS like had an error out, so the links weren't as compatible as I think at the beginning of the process. And the Ethena team, specifically the IT team, was really helpful in working through that and getting us to a solution. And again, the flexibility from your all's IT department just really was critical.
That is genuinely so great to hear. I think every HR professional out there knows that implementations are not without their challenges. And so no one's expecting a perfect process on either side. But it's really great to hear that, when something happened on your LMS, our team was able to come right and say, we got this, we've got you covered, we'll help you through this, no problem. It just, I think, sets the tone for the long-term relationship, right? Like this is the level of support you're always going to have with Athena. So really glad to hear that. So, one of the things that I love to hear a little bit more about is you ended up signing on with Athena's both workplace prevention training as well as our harassment prevention training. And I love that, again, as SCORM users, you're able to keep the same login for all of your employees going right to their LMS, makes it really smooth. It gets that buy-in at the leadership level, right? We're not having to learn a new platform. I'm curious to know what the reception was from leadership and your employees to the new training content. How did this training land with your learners?
Yeah, I think so. We're going through it right now. We're sort of at the final stage of the annual requirement around the anti-harassment and sensitivity training. But I think what we have heard from the sort of non-managerial employees, this is much better than what we had last year, not as dry, like actually interested to sit through it and like appreciate hearing the way that the Athena educators interact. I think for the managers, like there's always going to be that additional time, and for managers who manage employees in many states, it's still a long block of time that they need to commit to this. And we're some of our managers are very pressured to keep generating revenue and getting success for our business. So it's not as much a Athena content versus the time, which is not really any of our within any of our control.
I think it's a great point to make, though, right? Which is that we do have really busy leaders and managers, and understandably, right, these are required trainings that are going to take some time out of their day. And so, to the extent possible, you want to make sure this is the best, highest value use of their time as they're taking this training, and that the quality of it is high enough to merit, right, the time that we're taking out of their day, and that they're actually getting something high quality out of it. So, I think it's super valid and relatable. Yeah, some managers are not going to love having to take compliance training. And so let's try and make it just a little bit less painful by making the content more relatable, fresher, and maybe put a smile on their face with a fun joke or two while keeping it appropriate for the content.
Absolutely. And a huge upgrade from the provider we used last year. So that is being noted and recognized.
Oh, that is so great to hear. Genuinely, I think about this quite a lot. At my at a previous company, I remember that after employees finished taking harassment prevention training, they would end up making more jokes, not fewer, because the training was so low quality that it sort of sent this message to our employees that like we as a company didn't take it seriously, and therefore
Mhm.
they as employees were not taking it seriously, and they'd just be like, "Oh, are you going to be another Bob?" It just like it wasn't really it didn't address the gray area nuanced situations that employees were actually struggling with.
Yeah, no, I think it's the perfect blend of, getting the content, obviously right and accurate, but in a up to date and, more engaging way.
Yeah. So I'm curious to know, Dina, as we sort of close out this chat, for
Mhm.
anybody who's listening in and they're looking to potentially explore another compliance training provider, maybe something that you've said has really landed with them, like, "Ooh, the content isn't fresh," or, "Oh, I don't know that our employees do believe that we're sending the right messaging here." What advice would you have for them in terms of what they should consider when looking for other providers and how to set themselves up for success?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, having, having a company that obviously meets your needs from a technology and, you know, regulatory legal aspect is critical, and you have to think about that. But I think you always, as an HR leader and, as a manager myself, I think finding vendors and companies that have that client service approach really matter. And I think to your point earlier, Melanie, like make a statement for how, you want to further engage with that vendor down the line. So I think, client service is a huge thing. And I've worked with many vendors that have terrible client service. So it really does stick out. And that should be a differentiator. Again, in addition to anything that, is driving your needs from a legal compliance and technology perspective.
That resonates so strongly for the record because I hear from so many HR professionals that they want to change a thing, but they just don't have the time or the thought of making such a change feels so daunting. And so to know that you're going to be partnering with someone who's going to help you along the way and make that process as low lift as possible and give you really that high touch level of customer service really makes such a difference. Dina, thank you so much for sharing with us. I'm sure everyone tuning in has gotten quite a bit out of this. I know before I joined Athena that I hadn't thought about most of these things. Certainly, I wasn't even aware of SCORM files as a possibility. So really appreciate you sharing with us. And thank you again. Really excited to keep the partnership going.
Of course, thank you for having me, Melanie, and it was great talking to you.